Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Kevin L. Jackson here with you for Supply Chain Now's latest live stream. It's a Supply Chain Buzz coming to you every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time. So welcome to today's show. Okay, Gregory, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Scott. How are you, Scott?
that
I
reminds
tried
me.
to pull it off.
That reminds me of one of my favorite Andy Griffith episodes where they're helping a gentleman learn how to date. And he's got about 3 things he can share at a dinner party, Greg and Kevin. But Kevin L. Jackson, the one and only, tuned in with us here today. Kevin, how you doing?
Hello, Scott. I am very well today. Kevin is busy. I am Kevin's avatar. How can I help you?
Kevin, I think you've seen that show as well.
Hello, Kevin. It is good to see you again.
Oh, goodness. Well, hey, it's great to have you both. Greg, of course, we do this every Monday at 12 noon. We get a bunch of great comments from our listeners across the globe, and one of our favorite parts. So, folks, we are going to dive into stories, some of the key stories that you've got to have on your radar across global business. And today is the Digital Transformers edition of the Supply Chain Buzz, right? It's Kevin L. Jackson's takeover, Greg.
Yeah. I'm just going to sit here and be quiet.
No, you better not. Please.
I'm so glad you said that because you know that's impossible, Kevin.
So we're going to be talking about.
Please help me.
We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, especially from a technology perspective. And as we mentioned, we want to hear from you. We got a bunch of folks we're going to say hello to in the comments and cheap seats, and we'd love for y'all to weigh in as we work our way through. Before we say hello really quick, I want to share a couple of events that we want to invite folks to be a part of.
Right.
The ShipHawk webinar is coming up right around the corner next week. It's August 24th, 12 noon. We're going to be talking about key elements to a successful WMS lifecycle. Greg, should be, warehouse management systems, all the rage these days.
Yeah.
We should have gotten into that industry, I tell you. But should be an interesting conversation, right?
Scott, 2 decades ago, more than that, 25 years ago. No, just more than 2 decades ago. That's right. I thought that industry was flooded, overrun.
Right.
But when you read the statistics, you realize that there are so many companies out there operating, let's just say, flying without a net.
Right.
As the great Melendez used to do. So, it's fascinating how much opportunity there is in that industry. And there are maybe literally thousands of warehouse management systems out there.
Man.
So
everywhere. Well, Greg and Kevin, I was given a little inside joke from our friends at ShipHawk because Bob and Ron there have done a lot of work over the last several decades. And they've had a lot of fun with Ronald Reagan and Bobby Kennedy. So we're getting quite the duo. A little play on their names there. But Kevin, we lost you for a second, but you're back with us.
I'm good.
I'm sure you're getting a call from the White House or from some mover or shaker across the globe.
You're kidding.
It was the metaverse calling.
Okay. One more event.
I was on a panel. I was in Las Vegas for Black Hat 2022.
Right.
With 30,000 of my favorite friends, and we were all talking about cybersecurity. But I was on a panel. It was metaverse or metaverse. About cybersecurity in the metaverse.
The $1 trillion question. And Kevin, we'll have to do Metaverse 101 at some point soon. I think a lot of folks are working their way through that one. But hey, really quick here.
I love that idea, by the way.
Yeah, that'd be a fascinating show for sure. Really quick. I should have had that 18th cup of coffee this morning. Throat's a little bit itchy. But August 31st, we also have an upcoming webinar with our friends at 6 River Systems. Now they're hosting this event. It's kind of like basically more of a virtual conversation, really. Y'all check that out. Wednesday, August 31st at 12 noon Eastern time. It's all focused on how to use data to improve fulfillment operations. So check that out.
Tie right into the old WMS thing.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, right? Order management and all of that. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so Greg and Kevin, we've got 3 stories teed up, but before we get there, we've got a bunch of great people in the cheap seats. Let's say hello to.
Hey, it's football season, man. Now they're not the cheap seats; they're the club seats.
Club seats.
Club level.
We got to change our jargon.
We have 0 days or 0 weeks without football starting Saturday.
Ooh,
right.
Beautiful.
So
go Commanders.
Yeah. Hey, we got you guys this Saturday. You know that, Kevin.
Yes.
You're in Kansas City this Saturday. I can't wait to see Taylor. Do you still have Taylor Heineke? The inventor of the Heineke maneuver?
Yeah. Maybe. Not sure.
Right. Yeah, right.
Happening over the last
yeah, what happened last night? Seriously.
Well, Kevin's still trying to get over the utter collapse of the Nationals before we move on to the Commanders.
You're so
Kevin, all in good fun.
You brought that up.
All in good fun. All in good fun. All right.
You're getting an attitude. You know that, don't you?
Let's say hello. Josh Goody, great to have you back from Seattle. Good morning to you via LinkedIn. Hope this finds you well. Looking forward to your perspective throughout the day. Of course, Catherine, Amanda, Clay, Chantel, you name it, the whole A-team, production team are here with us. Catherine, great to see you here today. Ahmad, via LinkedIn, hello to you. Let us know where you're tuned in from. We love connecting the dots, but great to have you here. Philando from Huntsville, Alabama, via LinkedIn. Have you ever been to Huntsville, Kevin or Greg?
Oh, yeah. Huntsville's great. Actually, I've been binging on For All Mankind. It's about it's a new interpretation of the Apollo programs when the Russians landed on the moon first. And it's a lot of it, Huntsville plays big in that, in the storyline there.
Interesting. I'm going to check that out. Of course, it's well known for its connections to NASA. Greg, you ever been to Huntsville?
I haven't, but my youngest brother has. He went to space camp there.
Really?
So, yeah. He became a literal space cadet.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's right. Nothing wrong with that at all. That was especially, it was big, especially after the movie back in like 85 or 86. And I think every kid in the country wanted to be a part of space camp. But Philando, great to have you here.
85 or 86, is that the right stuff?
No, it's a movie called Space Camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Kevin, have you seen Space Camp, the movie?
I have not seen the movie, but I have heard of it. So it's pretty good. Is the movie
it's great. You got to check it out. Of course, Kevin actually has actual experience working with NASA.
Yeah, and he wasn't a kid.
We'll save that for another show.
Yeah, that sounds. It sounds really dumb asking him anything about NASA, doesn't it?
Yeah, we did a lot of work down at Kennedy, actually.
Yeah.
Emanuela, great to see you here via LinkedIn. Let us know where you are tuned in from. Look forward to your perspective. Sayantan, I believe. We've had a couple exchanges. He's been with us for a couple of our live streams. I think he's looking for what's next in his career. So let us know how we can help. But great to have you here as always. Natalie's back with us from the Charlotte area, I believe. Last time she was with us, Kevin and Greg, I think she was headed to the beach. And I think we were the last live stream on her way out. So Natalie, let us know how the vacation went.
Yeah, sure.
Patrick Kelly, what's going on? Host, of course.
Produce podcast, right?
Yes. Greg, you beat me to it.
Sorry. Sorry. That was sort of stream of consciousness.
He says, I'm not in the cheap seats. I feel like a VIP, baby. I love that.
Darn Skippy.
I'm talking about.
James Malley, the one and only, is back with us. We had a great webinar conversation with James and Will from Stored, and the third gentleman, one of the Packard team's advisors. I can't remember his name right off. But regardless, James, great to have you here and love the Packard story. Greg?
James, call Costco, please. I don't know if we should go into detail here. Just please call Costco. 2 orders, 5 days, 5 shipments, 6 boxes.
Wow.
So help them.
Give them a call. Give
Yeah.
them a call. Hey,
Yeah.
Kevin, on that show with James Malley, I'll pull him right back up. So we had James Malley, and then we had Rick Jones. And Kevin, we wish we had repackaged it as the Rick James Supply Chain Hour.
that would have been awesome.
So, James, great to see you here. Alimi via LinkedIn, or maybe Alimi. But regardless, let's know. We try to get everyone's name right. Sometimes I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. That happens from time to time. But great to have you here via LinkedIn.
Is that Atlanta accent coming out? Jeez.
I think it is, Greg. Then again, I can't use the Atlanta excuse because we got William Shakespeare, who has some of his roots in the Atlanta area. So it could be just a Luton thing, Kevin. We have Byron is back with us. Byron, great to see you via LinkedIn from Texas. Really enjoy your perspective. Joey's back in the house with us from Minnesota. Joey, always enjoy your perspective here. Let's see here. Patrick says, I'm not always with you. No, check that. I am always with you. May not be live, but always catch up YouTube and Apple. Hey, Patrick, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
This might be his avatar calling in anyway. I see somebody from India too. Wow. That must be late there.
Oh, man. Tuned in across the globe for sure. Julia's back with us. Juan, great to see you here via LinkedIn. Samuel is tuned in. Y'all make sure to let us know where you're tuned in from. But great to see you here today. I know we couldn't hit everybody, but we want to hear from you. We're going to work our way through 3 stories here today, and we want to add your perspective in addition to Greg and Kevin's in our chat here. So,
no doubt.
With all of that said, Greg and Kevin, are y'all ready to dive into the first story?
Hey, that said, can we talk about that for just a second?
Oh, sure. Yeah, please.
So we have this new newsletter, which our marketing department's so stealthy, right? LinkedIn newsletter called That Said. And Scott, please explain the format for that sucker, because I think it's really valuable.
I appreciate that. So our team came up with this. There's so many great content creators. Greg, Kevin, Kelly, Corinne, Billy. The whole Mary Kate, the whole team, right? Yeah. Well, in the world of social media these days, it's content's like a tidal wave. It keeps on coming. And it's easy to lose sight of even some of your favorites. Yeah. So what we're attempting to do is the kind of every Saturday, especially with content that stems from LinkedIn, which seems to be everybody's favorite platform as of late, at least. We're trying to make sure you don't miss some of these weekly messages from our hosts and our team, and some of the opportunities to really plug in and even do good, which is so important. So we're going to try to drop that. We're still kind of tweaking. The first one hit Saturday, right, and went out to all of our almost 60,000 followers on LinkedIn. And we're going to still kind of tweak the format a little bit. We'll probably tweak, when it goes out and the cadence. But it's focused on a weekly message of really good information and content that's very actionable, informative, and give you some ways that you can, with a couple clicks, you can plug into some of the cool things coming up. So
so read the darn thing and give us some feedback.
Right.
In other words.
Yes. Well, in other words, it's going to be the next newsletter, Kevin. This one's but
I like that.
So with that, with that said, it's kind of the flag that it is flying under. By the way, James Malley says, "Hey, Greg, I called Costco, but they said I need to have a membership to sell them cartonization tech."
I have a membership. Make me an advisor, James. We'll get in there.
There you go. There you go. Sounds good to me. Okay.
I can give them firsthand reasoning as to why they need to do something.
Oh, man. Wonderful. That's a conversation to be had. Okay, so I'm going to pull up our graphic because we're going to dive into our first story. All of these really kind of focused on the intersection, although it's less an intersection. It's just kind of how it is these days, the marriage between supply chain and technology. But let me share this graphic here because I want to start today's conversation with this report via Harvard Business Review, which is an excellent publication. You could get a degree just reading that every day. It focuses on how digital transformation is driving a lot of change when it comes to relationships and how they're evolving across global supply chains. So, Kevin, tell us more.
Yeah. So, digital transformation is really creating brand new products and processes and services. But the organizations and their partners across their ecosystem really have to manage the relationships as well, because they are morphing. For instance, how can you do collaborative forecasting without leveraging machine learning in your process, in your algorithms? You really have to understand and leverage real-time information in order to understand the buying patterns. And that's not just people that are interacting directly with you, but they're interacting with your partners. And how does that affect demand? The other thing is that warehousing. I mean, you lose money if you're just putting product in a warehouse and nobody's buying it. It's just sitting there being stored. So now we're really transitioning into on-demand warehousing. And there are companies out there that you may want to see as a partner that identify unused industrial storage, and then it makes it available sort of on an on-demand, short-term basis. So if you can reduce that inventory that's just sitting in the warehouse waiting around. The other thing is that you may need to relook at your own key performance indicators that you use to really measure yourself and how you're doing. And it can also be used to help understand the value of digitization. For instance, a lot of organizations are leveraging partners to deliver their products to their customers. Think Uber Foods or Grubhub, right? These partners are delivery pooling services, to be honest. And these arrangements are really weren't available before people started staying at home and needing to, and companies needed to partner with these delivery services. So now instead of just looking at traditional tracking indicators, you may need to look at the gains that you may have gotten from pooling delivery arrangements. That's what the restaurants are doing. Right. The same thing with delivery at home. So these new digital enabled services need to be folded into your KPIs. And these are relationships across your ecosystem, across your supply chain.
That's right. Well said there, Kevin. A lot of good stuff. Greg, coming to you, your thoughts.
Yeah, well, to think that supply chain was never enterprise to begin with is folly. But honestly, we treated it like that for a long time. And this mass availability of data and connectors that Kevin is talking about in this Harvard article talks about is a huge enabler for enterprises, right? And it allows them to communicate with their trading partners, with their product movers. It helps to even service providers like 3PLs, the people who might store a Whirlpool fridge over here and a Maytag fridge. Maytag still make fridges? I don't know.
I don't know. I thought you were about
over there.
I thought you were about to say Whirlpool as if you were from deep in Southern Alabama. Whirlpool. I thought
is that how you say it? I'm sorry.
I don't know. That's what it sounds like.
Whirlpool.
LA.
That's more trailer park. Sorry about that.
That's right, Kevin.
That's where I'm from. So, So I think that, that recognition of the enterprise nature of supply chain and the enablement that occurs with data and integrations between companies is really, really important. And it's not really important. It's absolutely mission critical to supply chain. And, it's part of the reason that we got so far afield when the pandemic hit. Of course, nobody could have foreseen that, right? But it was exacerbated by the fact, and it obviated the fact that companies were not connected. So, that's hugely important, and there are companies striving to make those connections. But I think important, this article talks about how you, as a practitioner, need to manage your own enterprise in when you have all of these players in the game, including the digital technologies that you might be using.
Yep. Well said. A couple quick comments. First off, I want to welcome in Zuhair from Morocco. First time here. First, a new member of our Supply Chain Now fam, global fam at that. So welcome in. Looking forward to your perspective here. Also, a couple quick things on the story to add to what Greg and Kevin have shared. My dear friend Mark Preston, who Greg sometimes joins us here, I'll always remember, he said, as he was making this point on a keynote, you got to think about your inventory as if it's all 2 gallons of milk. And the longer it sits, the longer it's going to cost you, to Kevin's point. And also, speaking to one of the examples, maybe 2 things that this article touched on that I think really helps people visualize some of what we're talking about here. The example of the infant pacifier, a modern one, right, which is connected via the IoT. I think we use this as an example. I didn't see any company names referenced, but think about that. It's connected. It might be gathering body temperature or other metrics. So for the to really take advantage of the opportunity and maximize it, think about the deeper and a more in tune relationship that the manufacturer must have with its suppliers, with retailers, to really execute on the art of the possible there, right? I think the other thing that touched on, we may touch on this later in our third story, is this Walmart Go Local program. How that's powering different relationships with, maybe not direct competitors, but at least some sorts of competitors with other retailers. And now it's helping them compete in this modern environment, this modern commerce. I'm dropping E, Greg, this modern commerce environment. So y'all check this out. We're all speaking to this Harvard Business Review article, Digital Transformation is Changing Supply Chain Relationships, and give us your take.
One other thing,
go ahead.
Got to really understand what it takes to communicate across these new relationships. So it's really important to be able to communicate to your partners as well.
Agreed.
Not
Absolutely.
Not just connect, but communicate.
Yeah. Agreed. I think, one thing we have to be aware of is the quality of data that could be received, because I just happened to have spent 5 days with my granddaughter and her pacifier over the last several days, and it spends as much time on the floor or in the sink as it does in her mouth. That kid can launch that thing.
I love it.
So, but I mean, it is an example of where, I mean, it could be attempting to get data. Mom, like a good mother, right? Thing hits the floor, she rinses it off, wipes it off in her mouth, and then sticks it in the kid's mouth, right? So, I mean, whose body temperature are you really measuring? So, there's all of those kind of challenges, of course, and of course, that's just a fun analogy, isn't it?
It really is. That we can all relate to. What's that, Kevin?
In my day, a connected pacifier was just tied around the baby's neck.
Yeah, it was like a necklace. You're right.
Yeah. Oh man, things
with
change.
Yarn, right?
Right. Yarn.
Yeah.
Oh man, those days. As much as I reminisce quite fondly on those days, I'm glad that my kids don't use pacifiers. I'm glad they can get into their car seats and buckle themselves. That was a different life when all three of our kids could do that. But
just wait till they can drive and go run errands to get groceries and stuff, man. I'm telling you, it's freeing.
Man.
At the same time, it's harrowing. It's freeing.
Well, Greg and Kevin, I think we kicked the heck out
Nailed
of that
that one,
first
didn't we?
story. Nailed that one in so many different ways. I want to welcome in one of our favorite members of the our fam here, is Gene Pledger from North Alabama. Great to see you here today. Better late than never, for sure. Catherine has dropped the link to our With All That Said newsletter. Y'all check that out. And there was one other comment here. This is from Jerry via LinkedIn, Greg and Kevin. He says, speed to market used to mean how fast can you get the consignment to the customer. Now it means how quickly can providers get their customers critical information so they can make a business decision. Excellent point there, Jerry. Okay.
That's a great analysis right there.
Isn't it? All right. And speaking of connection and communicate, T Squared, who holds down the fort for us on YouTube, says, looks like a Procter & Gamble program with a slight twist is the new overall mantra in these new business relationships: connect, communicate, and develop. CCD. Okay, I want to move right along. I want to move into this next story here, Kevin and Greg. And this is all about where Jabil has identified 6 key intelligent digital supply chain trends. And before you say, oh, great, it's more of the same. Well, some of it, but some of it are going to be different twists with a focus on the trend part versus identifying, certain types of technology. Now, we probably, Kevin and Greg, don't have the time to work through each one. But Kevin, I thought, maybe you pick your 2 or 3 favorites or most relevant or most powerful and share those with us, Kevin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, there are 5 separate ones that they sort of highlight. And the 2 I really like is one on product complexity. Products are changing just as rapidly as the environment that we're operating in. They're becoming more sophisticated, more complex. And one thing that's driving them is very inexpensive micro sensor technology, along with wireless connectivity, that connected part, about that connected pacifier. So this is turning these basic goods like clothing, appliances, pacifiers, and vending machines into intelligent systems. So now you have an intelligent pacifier. It knows when it's wet. It knows when it's on the floor. It knows when it's in the mama's mouth or the baby's mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it could, right? Yeah.
So you really need to be able to understand that data. Is much more complicated to build than the predecessors. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is the collapsing product life cycles. All right. People, the product and renewal cycles are really shortening. Think about your own smartphone. There was a time in the not too distant past where you would get a smartphone and you would keep it for, 2 years, 3 years, right, before you turned it in, and you're, go back to your provider and they'd give you a new one. Okay. Keep you on that leash. But then, and they sold those phones to you, right? They actually built the purchase price into the service.
Right.
Then they found a new way to make money. They would lease the phone to you, and you would be locked into a lease for about a year with the phone. But that renewal cycle shortened from 2 to 3 years to a year, because they want to get the new technology to you much faster. But now technology is going even faster than a year. And every few months, there's some new capability you want in your smartphone. And the telco providers, unfortunately, the existing model, they lock you into a year. So you can't get that newest capability until, a year down the road. And that's why right now, the new trend is renting your phone so that you can swap out your smartphone every month or 2.
Right.
So these shortening product and service renewal cycles, place a much greater demand for more proactive forecasting and planning on the supply chain. All right. So you need to really have prescriptive and predictive analytics to increase accuracy amid these rapid changes.
Mm. Well said, Kevin. And Greg, he touched on one of our favorite things to talk about around here, planning, of course. But your thoughts on these 6 trends or others that Jabil had identified?
Yeah, I think one that will evolve into greater outsourcing is the outsourcing of manufacturing. I mean, if you think about the proliferation of brands from influencers on Instagram and TikTok and wherever else that I don't know, right?
Yeah,
um,
on TikTok all the time.
To companies that are that have been long-term brands and not great performers at supply chain. I think we'll not only see outsourced manufacturing, but we'll also see outsourced supply chains as a service. I have long believed that many companies, Macy's and who, by the way, has kind of gotten their act together. Can't believe I said that. And other brands, Adidas and others, they're really good at branding. They're really good at the complex product part of it, and they're really good at marketing that product. But they are lousy and frankly don't want to be good at supply chain. And I think more and more companies will start to divest themselves of that supply chain. You know, the outgrowth of 3PLs and outsourced manufacturing could combine into not just outsourced physical supply chain operations, but also the technical supply chain operations, right? Why plan or forecast when you're lousy at it? Every year it's proven, right, that retailers, especially with fashion, short life cycle, and in this year, highly seasonal products, right? Target, Walmart, Kohl's, all devastated their earnings with horrible buying decisions on, for instance, my favorite, patio furniture, which, by the way, arrived last week, Scott, at an incredible discount.
Just in time for the fall.
So anyway, I think that is a really important evolution. Also, the notion of savvy, or even just the presence of supply chain in the C-suite, and most importantly, not even the presence of chief procurement and chief supply chain officers, but the recognition by the rest of the C-suite that this is an important thing, not a necessary evil, that it is the enabler of the entire brand experience of sales, of finance, of revenue, right? And delivering the brand promise of marketing. So I think that is really, really critical evolution, and that recognition and that awareness by the consumer also will force companies to become much, much more serious about their supply chain operations. It's not a cost-saving initiative, right?
That's right. Well said. A lot of good stuff there between the two of y'all, especially. Speaking of the devil, Mark Preston, I was just talking about Mark a second ago. He's with us here. Now, Mark is doing big things with Kohler now. So keep that in perspective as I share his comment. Because as Mark is speaking to Greg and Kevin's shifting market, Mark says, maybe we can rent out toilets instead of selling them. What a great idea. And laughs.
They've been doing that, by the way, for decades in Europe. You can pay money to use a artistic even looking public facility.
Well, you know, speaking of, I saw a documentary on a more serious note on might have been Amazon Prime, and it was talking about how globally there's actually one of the big global challenges is everyone having toilets and a means of effectively dealing with sewage instead of sitting in holes in some villages around the world. It really was eye-opening to something that we all kind of take for granted, here in the States. So anyway, y'all check. You can Google for that. make sure you connect with old Mark Preston. He's been doing big things for quite some time in the industry.
I thought
Kevin,
the original toilets was called porta potties.
what?
Well, that's a good point. Now they come in big old trailers too, and they're pretty fancy.
It is amazing. It is amazing what they do.
I mean, yeah, it is pretty impressive.
And it's also amazing how some folks see a row of porta potties at different sporting events as a perfect stadium for racing over the tops of these porta potties. Have you ever seen the races that take place across the top of them?
No.
Oh boy, we'll have to talk.
Is that another useless YouTube channel?
Definitely,
okay.
Definitely. Check that out, especially in the later in the day at where massive amounts of adult beverages may have been consumed. All right, so Joey shares a great comment here, kind of getting us back on track. Joey shares data analytics and business transparency between both partners is no longer a nice to have; it's a must have in order to continue to thrive, keep up with your competition, and take on additional market share. Unfortunately, we have seen it. Those that put supply chain visibility in the back burner aren't putting their organization in a position to maximize its potential. Well said,
putting
Joey.
At a great risk, as a matter of fact. Right?
Agreed.
For brand identity and performance. Yep.
Well, and to that end, Kevin, you and Greg, as we were talking about this article from Jabil, both took some of my favorites. And this is nothing new. Greg, we've been talking about evolving generational expectations probably since the first episodes here. If you don't know and acknowledge that, then you've got your head in a hole somewhere.
Right.
And then also the newfound levels, all-time high record amount of levels of supply chain savviness we've got in the C-suite. And I would argue that both of those dynamics are great for industry. All right. Great for industry. Okay. So Kevin and Greg, man, we are taking deeper dives on these articles today. There's so much to tackle in the world of global business today, but let's move to this third one. This is I think this is a fascinating study. And this comes to us from our friends at Intelligent Automation Network. And it's an interesting read on how all the global disruption and supply chain challenges, amongst other things, all that's driving real transformation, innovation, competition, co-opetition, as some folks have put it. At the world's two of the world's biggest brands, right? Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I'm going to start with you. I can't wait for both of y'all's take on this here. Kevin, tell us more.
Well, really what they did is they understanding the current state of change across digital supply chain. They were looking at these two companies, Amazon and Walmart, to see where were they investing with respect to digitizing their supply chains. So softening demand and inflation, labor disputes, it is always something new that you have to respond to in the marketplace. And these things today are threatening the recovery of the supply chain from the issues it had during the pandemic, all right? So resilience is a really important aspect. So how is Amazon and Walmart addressing this? Amazon, for instance, has deployed over 520,000 warehouse robots, right, across more than 1,200 fulfillment centers. All right, this is a huge number of robots. They've always been known as leading edge, but this automation that they're driving. But look at the other side of this automation. They may also exhaust its entire available fulfillment center labor pool in some of their key areas. So people may say, well, they're hiring all these robots. What about people's jobs? Well, in areas like Phoenix, Memphis, and Wilmington, Delaware, there just are not enough people to actually man these fulfillment centers. So the robots aren't taking jobs. These jobs can't be filled.
Mm.
So they are really also leveraging a lot of advanced applications for artificial intelligence and data analytics to drive the last mile delivery requirements. They're investing actually about $1 billion in companies that are developing new, more advanced supply chains technologies. So, not to be outdistanced by Amazon, Walmart is right there. Okay. They are pouring billions of dollars into reinventing their supply chain as well. Their focus is to deliver a seamless omni-channel experience to their customers. For instance, they have established a blockchain relationship and partnership with supplier companies like Dole and Kroger, McCormick, Nestle, Tyson's Foods,
Right.
and Unilever. So they're leveraging blockchain to build brand new applications to help increase food traceability. With Project Gigaton, they have a partnership initiative to eliminate 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases from its global supply chain by 2030. And the AI provider Symbiotic, right, is automating dozens of the Walmart distribution centers in the district around District of Columbia, here where I live,
Right.
and beyond. So begs the question, what are you doing to automate your supply chain?
Well, we've got $1 billion fund too here at Supply Chain now too, Greg and Kevin.
Excellent.
But kidding aside,
a Brazilian.
Yes,
we've got $1 Brazilian.
So, Greg, after Kevin kind of laid it out, and again, we're talking about this great and short but informational read: Supply Chain Woes Inspire Transformation, Amazon versus Walmart. Let me go pop some popcorn really quick and grab my Diet Coke, because I just can't wait to hear what Greg's take is here. Greg.
Well, you can't even begin to list the number of companies that both of these entities have bought over the last several years, mine included, and many more. And in fact, just midweek last week, in my newsletter, we talked about another company that Walmart has bought. I mean, if you think about it, they bought Jet, right? I don't think anybody even remembers that, Jet.com, to become a real e-commerce player, right? And it has only continued from there as the complexities of the supply chain are revealed to them. Amazon, on the other hand, they didn't want to be a supply chain company. They were forced to be by the abject failure of the U.S. Postal Service, UPS, and FedEx in 2014, and again in 2017 during peak season. And they took their fate into their own hands and became a supply chain company. They realized that they could not count on, because of the volume that they do. I mean, let's face it, right? The second largest retailer in the world. Guess who's the first? Walmart. Did you guess, Scott? I'm sorry. I just whispered.
I got it right. It right.
So they've had to become one, and they have, and right quickly and en masse, to Kevin's point. But they recognize the need to become efficient as early as 2005 or 6, when they bought a company called Kiva, that it was the launching pad for those 520,000 robots that they have. So they have facilities, Amazon does, that are virtually lights out, 2 million square feet, maybe between 15 and 30 human beings work in there. And many of them are maintenance, by the way. And then the facilities basically navigate themselves. It is unbelievable operation at Amazon. And of course, because of the volumes that they're doing, they're facing problems and creating innovations and acquiring or developing solutions that are solving problems that almost nobody has, except maybe for Walmart and Target and a few other companies that are really, really big. So the big get bigger, but the good news is those companies that they're buying, they're creating liquidity events for really talented founders who, after their 2 years of golden handcuffs wear off, can go off and start another company, in an area of the supply chain where there's opportunities. So they are also helping to nurture. I bet this isn't the direction you thought it would go, Scott. They are also helping to nurture innovation in the supply chain, because as people see what they're doing, companies are developing an everyman's, for lack of a better term, version of that technology for the smaller companies in the industry. And they're pressure testing incredible amounts. Both of these companies are pressure testing incredible amounts of technology for really talented founders, giving them a leg up, giving them the opportunity to go off and create even better, or maybe another niche service out there in the industry. So it's big. It's a great service. I don't think anyone's going to, this is the part you were expecting, Scott, is Amazon, Walmart continue to get bigger. Remember the old days when everyone was afraid of Walmart taking over.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
And now Walmart almost seems like the underdog, although they are a much, much bigger enterprise, though they'll probably be eclipsed by Amazon in the next 3 years. But they are a much, much bigger enterprise, and everyone is worried about Amazon.
Right.
A concern well placed, because even Walmart has shown greater restraint. Let's just put it delicately. Restraint in terms of management of their customer base. Gosh, I don't know what else to say, but and even they are friendlier to their suppliers than Amazon is. So it's going to be interesting as these two companies evolve.
Agreed.
Yeah, Walmart's no longer acting like a monopoly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I still remember
they do act like an 800-pound gorilla still, if you're a vendor to them. But even they are starting to realize that they can't sustain that, because every year they have to find a new sucker. Just like when government gives out a contract, there's always some idiot that's willing to think they can build business with them. And you always start at 15 cents and then they whittle you down to 14, 13, 12. And you realize you'd be better without that volume. So I think they're starting to develop, Kevin, to your point, they're starting to develop more of a nurturing, more of a really, truly collaborative partnership with their trading partners.
All right. Well, let me get a word in while Greg takes a sip. I strategically held that. But, to Greg, you mentioned, how not too long ago in the not so distant future, everyone worried about Walmart taking over. It made me think of when Walmart first came to Aiken, South Carolina. And I still remember walking into the store for the first time. I still remember where it was. It's since moved to a much bigger location. But even at the time, in that initial kind of Walmart 1.0 expansion, I'll call it, maybe in the early 80s, just how different and how big. I still remember the smell of this Walmart store. It really, it blew my mind as a kid. And then fast forward now, where it has been trying to catch up after several years of getting beaten to some extent with Amazon. It's tough to, the world's largest retailer, is tough to consider it being beaten, in many ways. But as we've talked about on countless shows, it has been losing some traction. So it's really good to see how Walmart has leaned into doing things differently and not sitting on its laurels of how it got to where it was, up to a few years ago. And it'll be fascinating to see these two duke it out and continue to make ripple effect. Not continue to make ripple. Different analogy.
They only buy ripple; they don't make it.
Right. Continue to have a ripple effect across industry. Okay, we got a ton of comments. I want to get to Greg and Kevin as we kind of come down the last stretch, and then I've got a question for you, Kevin, from our dear friend. In just a moment, I'm going to pose to you. First off, Natalie says that their 3PL partner implemented robots in January, February 2020. They bolstered our business through the pandemic, and we were able to grow in that time. That's great. By the way, we were able to take over all Amazon business as direct fulfillment when they were only bringing in essential product. Go robots.
Go robots.
Good for you.
How about that?
Yeah.
Master Sergeant Jeremy Durr, great to have you here with us again. Says Sears used to rule a roost once upon a time. So true. Greg, we've chatted about that plenty of times.
That's a company that rested on its laurels. I mean, let's think just a brief explanation of Sears. If you don't know who they are, they literally invented catalog retail. You could buy an entire house, every screw, nail, nut, bolt, plumbing, everything that you needed to to build a house. You could buy it and they would ship it to you. And this was a company that couldn't see the forest for the trees or couldn't change because of their business model. And now finally, by the way, have reached a liquidation agreement with their private equity vulture and their remaining shareholders to probably end the Sears brand forever. So that is a company that could have, and by all rights should have, been able to evolve, which makes what Walmart has done an even greater accomplishment, because they also got caught on the back foot, but they were able to transform their business and not just survive, but hold on to that top retail slot for a lot longer.
Agreed. Agreed.
Comments. I know that tagline was Sears has everything. And remember that Sears was at the head, and we were worrying about was it Kmart? Kmart was coming strong, right? Right now, where's Kmart?
Kmart sucks.
So
sorry, this is my Rain Man impersonation.
Savita says, to add to Kevin's points, robots also decrease the costs and also increase inventory accuracy. Inventory accuracy, Savita says, is a major challenge that retailers deal with. Let's see here. Jerry says A&P, right? The old grocery store was one that rested on its laurels.
Wow,
we had one of those in Aiken.
Example.
But I want to get back to a quick question, and Kevin, we're going to have to get your Reader's Digest version of this, your TikTok version of your answer to this question.
I get some music. Need to have some music.
So Jeremy is asking, when you mentioned blockchain earlier, in terms of how Walmart and Amazon are leveraging that technology, or maybe back to that middle article, is it in relationship to digital documentation, for example, proof of delivery? Can you speak a little bit to how you see blockchain being used there?
Yeah. So if you look at blockchain as just digital documentation, it's sort of like looking at an online form where people fill out an online form and then you print it and you route the paper. All right. Blockchain is much more than digital documentation. Sustainability is a big issue. So you need to be certified. So you need to have people that inspect processes, things like anti-slavery, preventing slave labor. You need to have people that verify and do digital signatures.
Provenance, Greg.
Provenance, right? Exactly. And what about things like reducing the use of water when you're doing farming, or reducing the use of chemicals, or organic farming? There's all types of verifications that require digital signatures. And this is captured on the blockchain as well as ensuring that the farmers, for instance, get paid fairly for what they're doing. So blockchain does a lot more than just digital documentation.
Yeah, agreed. And one quick comment, and Greg, I'll get your comment, is it also all those things while also preventing some of the reindeer games, that other ways of conducting some of those transactions, where there could be a lack of trust or a lack of legitimacy, or faulty provenance, for lack of a better phrase. So
lack of provenance.
Yes, lack of provenance. Thank you, Kevin. All right, so Greg, get your quick comment there, and we got a couple other things to get to.
Yeah, I think verification is exactly the word. that I extracted from what Kevin said. That's what blockchain does. So anywhere you need verification of identity, of provenance, of delivery, handoff, whatever you want to say, that is where blockchain plays in the supply chain. I see a future where we verify that it was this person that signed for this trailer, right, and broke this seal. And that's just one example, but there are all kinds of ways to determine that, that we take down a lot of the old school ways, stuff falling off the back of trailers, cigarettes falling into the good fellas' hands, and that kind of thing, right? That a lot of that will, a lot of the opportunity for that will go away once we have figured out how to implement blockchain appropriately.
It reduces costs, it reduces losses, and increases the value across the value chain.
Right. But we also, as an industry, we've got a big task from an education standpoint. There's lots of professionals at all levels that still wrapping their head around how blockchain works to some of the things that both of y'all have shared. Mm-hmm. But hey, that's the case with any new technology, whether it can transform the world or transform a certain sector. So Greg and Kevin, I appreciate y'all's comments around blockchain. Folks, we may finish just a couple minutes over today. It's a jam-packed version of the Buzz. And Greg and Kevin clearly not only ate their Wheaties, but also drank copious amounts of coffee this morning. There's too much to comment on.
Please.
What's that, Kevin?
Catherine, slow up the clock. Do your job.
Yeah. All right. Save us from ourselves.
That's right. Rhonda says, Rhonda is out there in Arizona. Where I believe, Greg, we interviewed the chief supply chain officer at Sweetwater. I think that's where their big new location is going in.
Yeah.
Right. So Rhonda says, and great to see you here today, Dr. Rhonda. She says, interesting, Kevin. Arizona is booming with new warehousing in the West Valley. Job market is hot, as you mentioned, for fulfillment talent as well. Her husband works on the highway construction side, and it seems the past 2 years, that's all the company he works for is supporting. Hot industry there. Let's see.
Literally hot in Phoenix.
Yes. No kidding. Now, at the same time, we've seen Greg and Kevin. We talked about this, I think, the last live stream. Amazon, speaking of, they have shelved certain new, I think up to 20 new fulfillment centers have been shelved because demand has been weakening a little bit, or not growing as fast, rather. Maybe is a better way, more accurate way of putting it. So mixed signals out in the marketplace for sure. Let's see here. Natalie says collaborative relationships can foster ideas for the Walmarts and Amazons to implement or consider for improvements. Sometimes the vendors and suppliers see what doesn't work better than the customer team. Absolutely. Master Sergeant Jeremy During says digital signature tech is out there. The military has been using it for years with the common access card. And finally, the one and only Kim Winter, Greg, is with us. Top show, gents. Big thanks from DXB.
Dubai.
Okay. Is that the international airport?
That may be the airport. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if he's actually at the airport or just,
okay.
Like we say ATL, right?
Gotcha. Well, regardless, Kim, great to have you. Thanks for tuning in and looking forward to catching up with you soon. Okay. Greg and Kevin, man, I knew we had a dump truck full today, a perspective to drop on folks or to inform folks, but y'all both really brought it. Try to say that 7 times fast. I want to ask you both about a couple of quick things. So first off, Kevin, Digital Transformers continues to do big things and grow its global listener base and have some really meaningful conversations. I pulled the last graphic here. This is, I think, from the last episode that was published. Whether you speak to that or you speak to the next show that's coming up, what is coming next from Digital Transformers?
Well, I tell you, that last show was a blockbuster. We had Dr. Camille Jones from the U.S. Census Bureau talking about how blockchain is being used to actually accelerate and provide provenance to medical claims. when the enumerators go out and do their job, trying to reduce the paperwork and make it process quicker.
Yep.
But next Monday, we have our July episode. It is July, right? No, it's August. It's July.
I thought you were messing with me, Kevin.
Our August show comes out next Monday, and we have sponsored by AT&T Business, and Teresa Lanowitz is going to talk about the how connectivity is changing the industry with respect to supply chain connectivity, and how cybersecurity is really playing into that around the industry. So that's going to be a huge. We had her on early about healthcare. So that this is going to be a great show. So stay tuned for that. And also, let's see, September. I'm going to be going to the Mobile World Congress in Vegas next month. So the reason I bring that up because Dr. Jones will be speaking live at that show, and before that, we're going to have a webinar coming up in September as well. So there's a lot of things happening.
Looking forward to it as you help to power a transformative day for movers and shakers across the globe. I think that's one of your key sign off there. I love that. You got the Midas touch. And Greg, I should have gotten a snippet of one of your supply chain summaries. Today, you published focused on the Flow program, right? The White House has been pulling together and driving collaboration on, and you some great thoughts there. In fact, as I scroll through it here on LinkedIn, Jeremy Durings, who's with us today, has chimed in, as did Julia, who's also with us today. Sandia, lots of comments, which is my favorite part. We get to hear from Greg, and then I love seeing the conversations that kind of flow from, no pun intended, the supply chain summary. But tell us, how can folks lean into that, and when do you publish these things?
Yeah, sure. Today I may have had a little bit of fun at our government's expense, any government's expense, frankly, and government expense. Now, those are two words that often go together, aren't they? But every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I publish a newsletter and feature one of the articles on LinkedIn and Twitter. On LinkedIn, I actually do a commentary where frankly, sometimes the title or the article is just a catalyst for whatever I turn it into in terms of a commentary. Usually, it is usually on the topic or on the article, something like that. And today, I chose the folly of politicians telling supply chain practitioners how to do their jobs. Because, politicians have a job, right? They create a budget. They then allocate that budget. Then they monitor that budget. And then they are very carefully held accountable. And never mind. I'm sorry. Politicians' jobs are to get reelected. So they basically just pander to us a few weeks before the election, so we forget all the bad stuff they've done for the last. And they want to tell supply chain people how to run supply chains. You got to be joking. So that
right.
I was joking in a lot of places.
So the long and short of that is check out. You got to make sure you either follow or connect with Greg on LinkedIn first, right?
Or hit that bell. I've got and maybe you should do that on all of our. By the way, if you want to follow any of us, or whether you follow us or not. If you want to make sure you're notified when we publish content, you can hit a bell that's on our profile, and then you will definitely be notified. Scott and I talk all the time, right, Scott, about how sometimes we don't even see each other's posts unless we call each other out on it because of the way the algorithm works, but you can overcome that with that bell.
Yes, that's right. And we're enlisting Kevin L. Jackson's top-notch expertise to crack that algorithm and figure out how we can more freely share information and perspective. But hey, speaking of which, I want to share a couple comments, and I'm sure Amanda and Catherine will keep me on my toes if I get this wrong. So I'm counting on y'all. So I think this is from Savita, I believe, who says from the 1962's top 10 retailers, it was only Walmart who remained in business in 1993. Rest of them were acquired or bankrupt. Times certainly changed. Yeah. And then Savita says, great discussion. Thank you, Greg and Kevin. Yeah, what am I over here? Chopped liver. I'm just kidding.
People they do take you a little for granted, Scott.
Oh, I'm only in good fun, right? Only in good fun. I appreciated Savita's all your comments here today. Of course, Mark Preston.
She recognizes the power here. It's okay. Yeah. Thank you, Savita. Well, Greg and I really appreciate you.
That's right.
We do. We do appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without you. I mean, literally, Kevin, we wouldn't.
That's right.
Be here.
Well, great to have all the comments here. Mark, Kim, Julia, Walmart remained due to their low price cost strategy enabled by their supply chain strategies and tactics. Walmart, I think the business history on Walmart, especially from a supply chain perspective, would be a fascinating one. So Julia, great comment there. Okay. Let's see if I was right. Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you, Amanda and Catherine, Clay, and Chantel, the whole production team. Thanks for keeping us on our toes today. Big thanks to all the folks that tuned in via the we renamed club seats.
Club seats. Yeah.
Club seats.
Club seats or box seats in baseball season. Yeah.
That's right. It was jam.
They're the best seats in the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. The smartest people are in our club seats. I'm gonna tell you, wonderful comments across. And thank you, Mark. He says, I learned from Scott that Walmart in South Carolina smells funny. Oh, gosh. Man.
Smells like, yeah.
Oh, Greg, I heard that. But hey, Greg and Kevin, a pleasure. Kevin, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule, global travel schedule here. Sounds like you're back in Vegas soon. You were just in Vegas. I wish you all the best of luck as you get out and enjoy yourself amongst those conversations. But thanks for joining us here today.
Well, we all have to get back out in that post-COVID world. That's not really reality. I understand we're never going to have a post-COVID world. COVID is here to stay. We just have to deal with it. Do your business.
Right. That is right.
Mind your business, right?
Well, Greg, always a pleasure to knock out these conversations with you. And hey, Jerry, thanks for the feedback. I think if we all had a little more time, we would have booked 3 hours on these topics. I agree. Really, each of these topics could have been an hour plus in and of themselves. So I appreciate you being here, and thanks for your feedback there. Okay, hold on a sec. I keep wanting to sign off, but I keep seeing things. We hadn't seen Mervin in quite some time.
Yeah.
Mervin, how you doing? Great to see you.
Right?
Yes, that's right. So Mervin,
man,
I hope this finds you and your family well, and thanks for being here, and we'll have to catch up soon. Okay, Greg and Kevin, appreciate y'all's time here today. Love the discussions we had. To everyone in the club seats, the box seats, thanks for being here. Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks for dropping your perspective, just like we asked for on the front end. We had it by the truckload. Again, big thanks to our production team. But folks, to our listeners, if you take anything away, and Greg and Kevin certainly put on a master class in many ways today, but if you take anything away, Scott Luton challenging you to, hey, do good, to give forward, and to be the change that's needed. Be like Greg and Kevin. With that said, we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.